most entrepreneurs don't lose the day at 3 p.m., right? They actually lose it in their first 30 minutes. You wake up, with great intentions. You're going to have a productive day. You're going to get things done. You're going to be focused. And, you're going to make sure to get those things happening, but then something happens. And you look at your phone, right? One text, one email, one notification, or one small fire, right? And before you even had a chance to decide what kind of day we're going to have, your day's already going to belong to someone else, right? So, I bet you're a bit like me and you want to take back over your day. You want to get things going. So we're going to go through right now basically a 4-part framework on how to help you, not necessarily win your whole day and be like, hey, how do I do that? But how you make sure to win your morning so that you can really kick it off in the right spot. So, because the reality is, you're probably a bit like me, and it's not that you choose to look at your phone and just go do everything else that's random, but you really care. You care about the people around you. You care so deeply that when somebody else has something that is urgent in their mind, it takes priority. So your day then is consumed by what they're wanting, right? Not what you're doing and what you need to focus on to make it where you're making, the right choices and the most activities of what you're wanting. So, like I said, I wouldn't start by rebuilding your whole life. I'd start by looking at your morning, because if you can get your morning back in alignment, and if you can give yourself, then that's how you can give yourself a much better chance of winning the day, right? So, like we said, 4 parts we're going to go into, and what they are is, in the morning, you need to make sure that you really reset and get your body up and going. You need to get your spirit in the right spot, your mind in the right spot, and your business. Not a perfect morning routine. There's a whole bunch of great books to really dive into that. And I'll put in the links, of course, if you want, right? I always recommend The One Thing goes through really helping you focus in on that. And the other one that I like recommending is The Miracle Morning. So go look at those. Those are going to give you and help you construct this even more. But what I want you to do is focus on how are we going to help you? How are you going to take the initiative to have it where your morning is just that much better? So that's where these 4 parts come in. The first one, like I said, is body. This is for you to create energy, right? We are very much an energy being, right? What we have and what we can give is how we do that. And for us to manage that energy is going to help us get that much farther. So you need to make a decision, right? And you need to say, hey, in the morning, before everything else, you get it where you then go and get your energy up. This could be simple, right? This could be for you that you need to go and do some movement. It could that you go do a walk. You could go do a run. You could work out, right? Even some good stretching, right? What are those 10 minutes that you can at least get up and going to help you be in that right spot? Me personally, this right here helps me a lot to really just get up. I every morning go to the gym or I go for a run, and I really just enjoy getting up and moving, right? But this discipline of helping you to create that energy and be in the right spot is going to take you so much farther, so much faster than you can go without it. So, but most of the time, when people are saying, hey, great, like, how do I get up and go in? It's that movement is what needs to create that motivation. So if you're going to have it be where you wake up and want to be motivated and get going, then that energy and that moving and getting some sweat is going to really help you get there. So that's going to be that process that you want to do, right? Because your body, is very passive and your mind is reactive. So if we start with working out and getting it going, then that's where you can really help things to go, right? It's where you can say, hey, I'm not just going to respond to today. I'm choosing how I show up. It's choosing to be in that right mindset to get going. So part 2 is spirit. And this is getting centered. This is giving yourself, this is that time to really get in that right spot. With being centered, right? And this is that second spot. This is going to be, there's a whole bunch of ways to do it. For me, that's going to be prayer. That's going to be gratitude, one of my favorite ones. and reflection, right? Really having it so that you can hone into where you're at and what matters, and also just taking the time to pull in that extra energy, that good energy, that uplifting energy to help you be in that right spot. By doing that, it's given me the ability to be at a calmer point, to be able to make decisions that much more smooth, to be able to really just show up the way that I want to more often, right? When you take the time to center yourself, to be able to get in that spot and really, be in that right place so you can help more people out by not being frustrated, by being able to stay calm, then you're going to be in a much better spot so that have the ability to be able to focus on what really matters and be able to make those right choices, right? And like I said, just like with working out, this doesn't have to be long. This could be, you taking the time and having a gratitude journal and saying, hey, what am I grateful for? This could be that you take some time to think of who you could serve today, or, even just saying a prayer, right? Having that moment to really refocus and get centered in what matters, because there's so many things in this world that are going to help, that are going to really put pressure on you. So by being focused in that right spot will help you in that way. So the question is not, whether the day will pull on you, because it will, right? The question is whether you were centered before it started. So that brings us into part 3. And part 3 is the mind, right? This is where you have to choose the identity that you want to feed. You have to choose where you want to put your growth. Because focusing in on, hey, how do you and where are you going is going to be important. So this is where, before the world tells you the million things that you need to get done, and you need to do this or do that, you need to say, hey, and decide for yourself, what do I need to focus on today? What are my goals, right? It might have been a while since you've thought about what your goals were that you set for the year or for the month or for the quarter, right? How, where, and what can you be in that right spot to be focusing on that better, to really help yourself in that way, right? Because it's not always that you need to do more. It's, or like maybe it's that you need to, be more consistent. Maybe it is that you need to do more, right? If you're a real estate agent like me, maybe you need to talk with more people. That usually solves your problem, right? And that's kind of where that question comes in of what does this look like? How do you help that? And where and what are you going to do next, right? So the question that I really want you to think about is whether you're choosing what feeds it and what feeds that direction that you're wanting to go, and if the first thing you feed in your mind is everybody else's business and where they're at, then you're not going to know where you're going and maybe what you want to be doing. And starting that way is going to make it where you're more scattered, right? You're going to be much more just on the whim of what comes to you. So if you spend those few minutes feeding your mind, having it be where you're really focused on where you want to take this, it's going to change your state to help you in that next spot, right? And there's a lot of ways you can do this, like we talked about, right? But one, it could be reading, pulling out a book, listening to a podcast, having it be where you're reviewing your goals and journaling kind of where you're at. But really, maybe having that conversation with AI. I've been loving that right now, right? Of having the conversation of how's my calendar looking for what my goals are. I just did that today. It was awesome. I gave my whole schedule of my goals that I wanted to have happen for this year to my AI. And it then said, hey, okay, here's what your day's looking like. And here's what you need to do. And I said, great. And it scheduled all the different time blocks for me and put them in the right spot so I could make sure I was in that, right? And that kind of leads us actually in some ways to part 4. Because, okay, we've now gone through, we've gotten everything else in the right alignment for us to be thinking, right? For us to be able to have spent that time on our body, right? On our spirit and on our mind and kind of where we're going. And the next one then is business, because that's, what you chose that you wanted to focus on and help improve. So this is where, you get to say, what is the most important thing that I need to do in my business, right? And have it be where this business reset really allows you that ability to focus not just on the routine that you're already doing, but what's that one thing that would make a difference today, right? If you really want to dive into this, like I said, the One Thing book, phenomenal for that aspect, but really having it be where you look in it in that way to be in that right spot, to know what is the most important thing that you need to get done and getting it done early, right? It's way easier to get those big rocks done and taken care of earlier so that you can then go do everything else that comes because you did that, right? And this could be, as a real estate agent, I think that it always boils to a few things. One, I always say lead generation, right? Lead follow-up. Those are almost always the right answer, right? From there, that's where everything else can kind of come, right? You can have it be where your appointments are in the right spot. You can have it so that you're continuing to learn and taking other classes and doing those things. And then you can also have it where you're negotiating for your clients to make sure that you are in the right spot for them, right? But that's where this comes in, is helping you to be in that spot, that mindset, to be able to go do what's that one most important thing. And I'm not saying, hey, you don't need to create that list of 10 and go do them all. This is your time to be in the right spot to focus in and get going. So that's the 4-part framework, right? And if you're doing that, and if you're doing that in the right order to help you be focused, then everything else is going to be working out, right? You're going to be able to have it where by the end of the day, you have the other things moving, the other things in the right spot, because you were able to get what was most important done. So if you want to win the day, you have to know what winning looks like, right? In order for you to know what winning looks like, you have to ask yourself, what's the one business priority? What was the most important thing for me to do to help me get there? And that right there is going to help you be in the right spot. So if this is something that was helpful for you, if you're like, hey, restructuring my morning, getting it where I have that right next steps and having it so I can refocus on getting there, save this. Or even better, share it with a friend, right? Share it with a friend, say, hey, I'm going to be implementing these 4 steps, right? And have it where you have an accountability partner and maybe that they want to do it as well. But that's where it's going to really help you not only to continue to elevate your game, but focus on the right things in the morning that will help you move in that right spot. So let's bring it together, right? There's 4 parts for your morning reset. 1, body, create that energy. 2, your spirit, right? Get centered. 3 is going to be going in and, with your mind, choosing your identity and feed your growth. And then 4, business. What's the one thing that you need to focus on that will make it where it's a win that day, right? And like I said, this is not about building a perfect morning, right? It's not about changing your whole routine. It's about getting back in alignment. Because we know when your body's off, when your energy's off, when your spirit is not in the right spot, and your perspective is off on your business, you're just not going to pull it off in the way that you want, right? So let's stop being reactive to the world around us and focus on, what really matters and getting us there. So save this video, share it with a friend, go get that part going, and, let's just make this the best day that we can. Choose the next day that you're going to do this on, improve that, and go from there, right? Because the reality is I want you to win the morning, and, then you can give yourself a real shot of winning the day.